Hi there. Welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this podcast, I interview successful business leaders and industry experts to help you grow your business. In this episode, my guest is Cloe Caron, president and founder at O2 Coaching. She is the influential speaker and facilitator who offers engaging lectures tailored to inspire women's empowerment and leadership. She is the author of 2 books, Propelling Your Team and Dare to Propel Yourself, which highlights inclusive leadership style innovation to transform corporate cultures. She's also a host of Confession of Leaders podcast, and Chloe's outstanding work has been recognized globally, earning the title of 10 most influential business leaders making a difference in 2021 by World Leaders magazine. She's also a board member at PME Montreal. We had a very interesting discussion around many different topics on business leadership. One of the items Chloe mentioned that how business leaders had to get involved in a business operations during recent disruption. She also talks about how business leaders are still dealing with the business operations and the importance of business leader to play at the right level and also gain the focus back in order to grow their company and scale their businesses. If you like this discussion, don't forget to send me your feedback and subscribe to this channel. Until next time, please welcome Cloe Caron. Hi guys, welcome to Business Leadership Podcast. In this episode, my guest is Cloe Caron. Chloe, and you've been speaking to a lot of people, helping a lot of business leaders. I'm looking forward to learning from you, looking forward to your feedback on a lot of discussions. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Gurmeet. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Welcome. So walk us through, you've been speaking to a lot of business leaders, in your podcast and, you've been working with them. Where you see some of those biggest challenges business leaders trying to get over, for the last few months? We've gone through COVID. There's so much disruption happening in industry.
Yeah.
So what do you think some of the biggest challenges are for leaders?
I think one of the biggest challenges that because of COVID, we kind of accepted that it's okay to be in the operations because we needed to be in the operations. When COVID hit, we needed to readjust, pivot, realigned. And so we got our hands into the operations as leaders. And the challenge is that we forgot to raise our hand and look back at, okay, where are we headed? What's the future like? And we're comfortable in the operations. That's the challenge for many of us. And so I work with executives, I work with CEOs, I work with executive committees. And the pace is so fast, and we've been, as I said, so caught up in the operations that we justify it. We find really good reasons, and they're good reasons.
Sure.
It's hard to go against these reasons, but they are nonetheless reason that we justify to say, yeah, but we need to do this. It's important. I need to make sure my team is okay. There's less availability on the market from a people perspective. We have some HR challenges, and so I don't have a choice. I have to do it myself. The challenge with that is that obviously it's very short-term focused, and it's very difficult to lead a company, to lead an organization or a team if you don't have a future view on where you want to go.
Wow, that's such an interesting point, Chloe. And I'm guilty of that as well. Most of us, we came from technical backgrounds. So when there's disruption in a market, getting back to operations is a comfort for us. It's not very hard. We get into operations very, very quickly because that's where we need. It's a survival mode. We have to pivot our services, pivot our products, and that's something we have a background in, and we are very good at that. So getting into operations is very, very easy. But to your point, getting out of operations is a challenging again because now you get comfortable again.
That's right. And think about this. As an individual, a working individual, and even if we go back even at school, we've been trained to be an expert. We've been trained to know the answers. And so as an individual contributor, you're being asked to have competencies that you bring to your marketplace, to the organization, to your team. And we depend on you to have that expertise. And so you grow your career based on that expertise. And it's very difficult to let go of the satisfaction of having the answer, of knowing what you are being asked to know, and to kind of let go and not needing to have all the answers anymore, but to rather become the conductor of an organization who knows the answer. And that shift between being the expert, being in the operations, knowing the answer, to becoming a conductor, a leader, a visionary, needs to be a very intentional shift.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, as the teams are changing, for the last couple of years, definitely with the disruptions, the teams are changing, and these are the items, whether it's operational disruption or whether it's a team's disruptions, is keep pulling you back into operations. Every time you do that, you gotta just, as you mentioned, you gotta be strategic about it and get back to where your value is, what moves a business forward, and drive the revenue and grow the company again.
You need to be intentional and you need to be disciplined because, as you say, everything in your environment will pull you back into the operations, whether it's an email from your board, whether it's an email from your colleagues on the executive team, whether it's somebody asking for you to join a meeting that they feel you need to be part of because they're afraid if you're not part of, they might need to go back to you. So everything in the marketplace brings you, I'll say, down into the operations. And I know probably some people listening are saying, yeah, but sometimes you need to go, for sure. So put that aside. Sometimes you need to go into the operations. That's fine. My concern here is because we justify that sometimes we need to go there, we stay there too long. And my invitation is saying, no, you need to be disciplined and intentional on doing that. And in the book, Empower Your Team, I talk about a very simple tool, but oh my God, so powerful. In every one team session, we do one team sessions with executive teams. In every of these sessions, one of the key highlights is absolutely the team and the individual unique strategic contribution, the USC, because it gives you that discipline. It gives you that grid, that intention on asking yourself, am I playing at the right level? Am I really, really playing the role I should be playing at the highest strategic level in the circumstances, in the environment I'm in, considering the team, considering the organization? Am I having the right impact?
So how do you assess that I'm at the right level? So how do you, is it based on strategy? Is that how do you assess that and make sure that you stay on top of that level?
Yes. So, and let me actually pick up the book so I can read it to you, because I really want to make sure that you've got this and your people have this. So the unique strategic contribution, when you think about it, if you were to imagine a pyramid and you think at the top of the pyramid, there's the where we're going and why it's important that we're going there.
Yeah.
And then you think about the middle part. The middle part is what? What are we expecting? What are we focusing on? And then the bottom part of the pyramid is the how. Many leaders are caught up at the bottom of that pyramid, thinking and doing the how. Again, operations.
So mechanics of it.
I'm sorry?
Mechanics of it.
That's right.
How they're going to get there.
That's right. How are we going to deliver? How are we unfolding our strategy and whatnot? What you want to do as a leader is spend most of your time thinking and communicating about where we're going and why it's important. Because when you have an intelligent team of people, which most of us have, if they're clear on where we're going and why it's important, so connecting the dots between if we do this, this is how it connects to this is how it connects to our vision, our mission, why we exist. The most work we can do on clarifying that, then people understand what they need to do and how they should be doing it. Now, if you need to increase the competencies, the knowledge of your people, that's something else. So you can train them, you can make sure they've got the competencies. But once they've got the competencies, the experience, let them do their job. Let them figure out how we are going to get to our destination. Mm-hmm. The challenge is, and I'm very passionate about this because most leaders do not spend half the time they should be spending on first of all, defining the vision,
Mm-hmm.
but most importantly, communicating the vision.
Yeah.
And they think because they've mentioned this once on a slide, at a meeting, at a town hall, and they feel like they know what it is, that everybody not only knows what it is, but can put the dots together. That's a big, big mistake that leaders do. They do not come back to it again. And so I've interviewed Paul Leret, GM from GSK in Japan, and he said, when you think you've communicated the vision, go at it again and go at it again and again and again. That's your main job. So all this to tell you that in your USC, in your unique strategic contribution, if you don't have in your sentence that you're focusing on the vision in some fashion, whether to define it, whether to communicate it, whether to give a clear sense of direction, then you're probably not focusing your time and energy and intention at the right place.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point that, we all know that what we try to achieve, but if you don't communicate properly, and more importantly, if you don't train your people properly on it, and looping back every time you make a lot of progress, loop back, hey, we did this because we want to get there,
That's
right?
it.
So you're connecting those dots all the time. And I think if you're not doing that constantly, even, if I'm not doing that, even I forget about it, and for a few days, and I have to remember, okay, what was about my whole point?
For sure. And that's when we get demotivated, because then we become doers. We do stuff just for the sake of doing stuff. And that's when you get, as a team, you feel like there's too many priorities. You feel like there's just too much volume of work, but the work is not being linked to that vision or to that destination, and it loses its purpose and its sense of inspiration.
And I think to your point, it requires both scenarios, if you're winning or if you're losing, the way I look at it. So if you're winning, your sales team need to know that we got this deal. Why we got this deal? Because we're trying to get to this goal. And when you're losing, it's very important to reiterate the vision again. Okay, that's fine that we lost in a short term, but this is what we're trying to get to longer term, bring everybody back on the same page, right? So I think it's a very important. I don't understand that, early on in a business, I thought anytime you win, you just reiterate, okay, we got this deal, this is the client we're going after, this is the goal we're trying to achieve, and this is the direction we're going in. But it's equally important when you're losing, because you need to bring back the people and the energy back in a corporation.
Absolutely. And when you're winning and when you're losing, the balance as a leader is to, as we talked about earlier, raise your head and look longer term. It's also our job to help people not to see too far, especially when you're losing. It's to actually see things 1 yard at a time and saying, okay, we're going to do this one play at a time. Let's win this game. Let's win this game. And then let's win this game. But while we're doing that as a leader, is to help seeing, to your point, how this fits in the bigger perspective, in the bigger picture of things. And so I just want to make sure that I read the sentence, because if your audience wants to write it, it's on page, I think, 43 of the book, but depending on your version, and it's a simple sentence, Gurmeet, but if people take the time to write it, you'll ask yourself, am I playing at the right level? And so remember that pyramid, the where and why and the how and the what and the how. My USC is 2. For example, give a sense of direction, as I said, defining the vision, whatnot, to create blank, to create what? To create a highly effective team, to create an impact on our clients, what are you looking to create here? And influence my team or organization by doing what? If you have a clear USC, and that USC can be equally created for your team or for yourself, and I would recommend to doing both, because your individual USC should align to your team USC, you will never, and I promise this, you will never lose track of the level you're playing at, because then you can ask yourself, am I in my US, like when you're going about your business in a week, you're asking yourself, am I playing at the right level? Am I doing something that someone else should be doing? that I should be delegating or that I should just point blank say no to? It helps you ask yourself these types of questions, which helps you elevate yourself, elevate the work that you're doing. And that's the discipline and that's the intention that we're looking to create.
Right. So do you only need a one statement? So listen, this is my UC, or do you need a multiple of those? Because you may be trying to do something in this direction, something in this. Is just a one little.
It's the one USC, or else you're going to create so much work.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, your USC does not have to live forever. You can change it every 6 months, every 8 months, depending on where you need to focus your energy. Let's say you've got a new organization, a new executive team. Your focus might be to define the vision. In 6 months, once that vision is clear, maybe your USC is to coach your team so that they deliver on the vision. You know what I mean? Like your main focus will be different according to where your team is at, and you can change it in 6, 8 months or a year, but do not try to jam pack everything. That's the challenge. You want to be able to say and look at your week and say, am I spending most of my time in my USC? And the answer right now, if you've not done the exercise, I'm pretty sure is no.
Sure. Yep.
And I ask this question all the time, and ask yourself that question and ask your clients that question, which is all the questions you get and all the answers that we're looking from you, the approvals or the files that we're looking to get you in, how many of these should have been dealt with by someone on your team?
Mm-hmm.
Never. Imagine the percentage. What do you think the answer is, Gurmeet?
Very low, probably. I would say 5%, 10%. But if focus on that will be ideal.
So that would be ideal. But the real answer that I get is never less than 50%, which means that 1 out of 2 questions that you manage, that you think about, should have been dealt by someone else on your team. Imagine the efficiency. Imagine how much more your organization can make in terms of decisions moving forward, dealing with important and complex situation and deliver to their own clients if the decision-making process is given back to the right people in the organization. And as a leader, that's our job. That's our job, to allow our people to make those decisions and not to take that on. Because the more we take it on, the less we empower our people to make those decisions. Even if we don't completely agree with them, we need to give them the power to figure out how they're going to do it and make those decisions.
So in order for somebody to act, focus on, their purpose, the high value items, do they need to set up a business structure a little differently? Now you have to make sure that everything's set up right. Because a lot of businesses, business leaders I talk to, they just not set up in such a way that they could be just, process oriented. They could be operational, and people are put in a position they can take care of everything.
Yes.
So they have to keep stepping into those to fill those holes in, because it's not set up the way it should have been set up, right? So you find that when you work with the people, they have to go back and figure a lot of things out.
So a couple of answers on what you just said, because the right answer would be, yeah, for sure. You've got to set up yourself to being able to play at the highest level. The reality of it is that, especially nowadays, people, organization leaders, CEOs will tell you, we don't have access to the same level and same volume of people that we would need. And therefore, they use that excuse to not play at the right level. And I understand why. I completely understand why we would do that. I do that myself. But I challenge myself and I say, okay, even in a context where perhaps I'd hire, another person or a more senior person in that role, regardless of that, you need to focus yourself on your USC and play at the highest levels as possible if you want to win at the longer game.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's been a struggle I see for a lot of people. And my, I struggle with this sometimes as the same. You need to set up a system and people. You have to put them in a position so they can drive everything in before you do that. So very interesting. So how about some of the items change over the last few years? You still deviate from as business leaders, we never have to deal with the health issues. Recently health and safety issues.
Yeah.
Our people's well-being, where somebody's dealing with either health challenges or recently the survey shows every 1 out of every 3 Canadians dealing with the mental health issues, either they are dealing with it directly or somebody in the family is dealing with it. So these kind of compressing items, do you still find somebody to deal with it, or these are the items becomes critical that you have to deal with as a working on a business?
For sure. So where to start with that? I'll start as an entrepreneur myself, as a leader myself. So I personally need to make sure that I invest in my own health.
Yeah.
And there was a gap between, I used to go to the gym, let's say, and I'm being very honest with you and tactical in a way. I used to go to the gym 4 times a week. When COVID hit, obviously I couldn't walk 2 hours a day at some point, and then really got fed up. I got like, oh my God, can't do this anymore. So now I'm really into going back and finding my own pace with investing in my health, not only physical, but mental. And so as a leader, I was confused between the role that I was playing as a coach and a role that I had as a leader. Yeah. And I needed to go back to my own self and say, okay, I'm a leader, I'm a coach, I help others, I need to help myself like that. I'm the first person I need to help. And so I'm really investing in that. First element to your question. Now, how do I help leaders help their people in that environment? There's many things that organizations are doing. They're putting programs in place. They're having more honest conversations. The one tool that I think we're not using enough, and the reason being it needs training. It's very hard to do that if you don't have the training, which is being a leader coach. And let me tell you what that is and what that isn't. It isn't a sports coach that will tell you and give you the answer and tell you, okay, do that move, do that play, and do that training and whatnot. The leader coach is someone that ignites reflections, questions, and your own answers. So it's not someone who tells you and gives you the answer. It's to the contrary, someone who helps you think about things, look at things in a different angle, find different options, find different answers. But that in doing that really helps you tap into your own motivation, tap into your own resources, tap into your own experiences. And I find that because we're caught up in the pace that we're in, because we're uncomfortable with perhaps not having the answers and not helping someone right away, we shy away from perhaps asking questions that are more exploratory, but can have a huge impact on that person finding their way on their own health, finding new ways of looking at work, finding what really motivates them.
Yeah, I think that's a good distinction between what you just mentioned with the sports coach, where somebody's done it before and we're looking for answer. Hey, you traveled this path before. Just give me an answer. What do I need to do? Do I need to work on my physical? Do I need to work on my form? What do I need to work on? And this person already achieved that goal, and you can look for answers. But in a business, you're not going to find somebody in a business coach who in your industry had traveled that road before and build those companies what you're trying to build. But to your point, that if they can give you the frame of mindset that where you help you discover your own limitation and work over it and figure out your own answers to the problems, I think that's and we already know what the answers are as business leaders, right? It's not that we need to figure out. We all have all the answers. We're just not looking at the right way sometimes. Sometimes perspective is not right or the mindset's not right. You just need a little adjustment and we can solve those problems.
And that's why I called my company O2, because for me, realized at some point that people just needed a bit of oxygen.
Yeah.
Like that time that they stop and think, that's all we need sometimes to realign, find the answers. To your point, many of us know many of the answers we're looking for, but we're not listening to. But in line with your question around how do we support our people being more healthy in the context that we're seeing people having difficulties. They're having difficulties. They're anxious. They're not too sure what they want to do or how they want to do it. Why are we doing what we're doing? We're seeing a lot of these questions being asked. How can we, as a leader, as a manager, as a business owner, how can I help my people in my organization find their strengths and find their resources? I find that the most efficient way is to be a leader coach. So what does that look like? So you might ask questions like, if you could organize your time in a fashion that would make you feel like you've got control, what would it look like? That's one question. Then there's so many other questions, but it requires you listening to what's important to that person. So if I ask that question, it means that I heard from the person that I was talking to that control was important in this context, or perhaps they feel like they don't have any control over anything these days. And so they're looking to gain that control back. And so that's why I'm asking, what would the right fashion of organizing your time, what would you need to make you feel like you've got control? And so that opens up on so many possibilities for that person who receives that question, that it ignites resourcefulness, it ignites motivation, it ignites hope, it ignites power. And that's what we want to do for people around us. We want to make them feel or give them the opportunity to feel their own empowerment.
Yeah, especially I happen to hire a lot of younger staff as well in our technology industry. Yeah. I find that the younger staff, they're coming out of university and colleges, they are hungry for that vision and that kind of style of leadership. They're looking for that. And the questions they're asking in interviews, it's simply to find out, where you stand as a leader, and they want to find out. And that's the person they want to work for, because they are also, interviewing you when you join.
They are so much. Yes, they are interviewing you. Yeah. They want to know that you'll not only tell them what to do, which they're also looking for because they're new on the market. So they need a bit of guidance. So it's not to say that we're removing ourselves from being, that mentor or that leader that is a bit more directive. But if we only do that and we don't do the other part, which is what I call the leader coach, we don't inspire them. Yeah.
Very interesting. You want to talk about 5 C's you have in your book. I thought it was a very interesting concept, helping business leader to stay focused. If you can walk us, our audience, through what does those 5 C's stand for?
Yeah. So the first C is really, it starts with you. When you think about it, it's difficult to not connect with yourself. It's if you don't connect with yourself as a leader, then it's hard to connect with others. It's hard to think about what the impact that you're having on others. And I know we hate to think that we have so much impact because it puts a bit of pressure on us, but we have so much impact. The climate that we create around us is dictated 70% by who we are as a leader, what approach we have. 70%. I know it's crazy when you think about this.
Yeah.
So I share this not to put more pressure on all of us, but to actually say, if that's the case, then I need to spend time on myself and I need to think about what the impact that I'm having. And am I having the impact that I want to have? And can I change a couple of things in my approach that would have a really positive impact on my team, that could make a huge difference in how I'm feeling as a leader? So the first key is really connecting with yourself, understanding who you are as a leader, what really works in your approach, what could be improved in your approach. So I talk about leadership styles. I talk about social styles, how to communicate with others. There's self-assessments on our website if people are interested in doing them. So it helps them understanding.
Yeah.
You stop me whenever you want because
No, let's go. So that was the first C, right?
That first C, connecting with myself. Yeah.
Okay.
The second key is creating winning conditions. Winning conditions.
Okay.
That's when you kind of get out of yourself and start thinking about what climate were you creating? What conditions are you creating to help your team win? How are you building trust amongst the people on your team, with yourselves? What kind of governance are you putting in place to help people contribute to their best? It's really creating the perfect climate for people to be performing and happy doing that. You want both. You want both. And so the pyramid that I was talking to you about, you'll find that in the second key.
Yeah.
The third C is the leader coach. It's all about coaching, listening, asking powerful, open-ended questions, listening at a deeper level, because we usually listen to level 1. Gurmeet, you actually listen very well. So hopefully,
thank you.
Hopefully the podcast have trained you well, or you were a good listener before. I don't know which came first, but you're listening at a deeper level to not only try to say what you want to say, but you're really looking to create a relationship and a continuity in our conversation. And so as a leader, understanding and listening to what is being said, but also what is not being said is really important. And that supports you being a leader coach. And the 6 different leadership styles, the leader coach is one of the most efficient one. Being a visionary, as we talked earlier, is definitely another one, but the leader coach is what creates an environment where people can grow, people can take on responsibility and accountability. If you do not operate as a leader coach, you will not see a team of people that are accountable and that are co-leaders of the team. Mm-hmm. When you're thinking about an efficient team, you're looking at a team that are as much accountable of the team than the leader is.
Okay. I think that's tricky, but that's hard work. You got to train people. You got to lead, coach people. I think that's what a lot of work is. That leaders need to put a lot of work in. Okay.
They do, because it's not something you're born with. You've got to be trained on. Yeah.
So let me summarize the list. The first one was connecting with yourself, right?
Yeah.
And the second C was
winning conditions.
Winning condition, and the third thing was creating. Leader coach.
Yes. The fourth key. The fourth one is the team contract. You need to have a team contract. As a team, you need to know what are the roles of this team. When do we know we're winning? When do we know we're not winning? And how do we adjust? You need to have a team contract. In that team contract, in the book, I have a model. You can use your own, but you need to have a set of rules that people understand and that they can play by. And in that team contract, you need to have your team USC, our common objectives. How do we know we're winning? Your KPIs. What's our action plan? What's our dashboard? And what are our team norms?
Interesting.
If you have that and you can hold yourself accountable to that team contract, you will be a performing team, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
Guaranteed.
So when you're working with the people, Cloé, where you see the struggle, and when you give them all those areas to work on, where you see more usually struggle is that, in which is the area, that the people take longer to build. Is it unique to every company, or is it every leader, or where you see some of those bigger struggles are when they're trying to get all those C's right?
And the last one, and I'll answer your question, is culture. If you do all of that, you've created a culture where people are accountable and they feel inspired and ignited by what you're doing, mm-hmm. why you exist as a company. To answer your question around the biggest challenge, I think it's a lack of alignment on where we're going and why we're doing this, which creates people being owners of their departments, of their divisions, but not being, let's say, all CEOs of the company. They come into this team putting their hat of being the financial, the CFO, the CTO, the CMO, but not the CEO.
Got it.
And what we want to create when we're doing the one team and we're working with a team is to actually allow them to choose their first team.
Mm-hmm.
Allow them to choose their first team being, let's say, an executive committee, for example. That's your first team. Your first team is not the team that reports into you. Your first team is your executive team, where you align on what's our priorities, how we're going to do this, what are we supportive of, what are we not supportive of, how do we know we're winning as a team. That needs trust, that needs clarity, that needs alignment. It needs me being able to say, I disagree with this, so we can talk about it, so we can align and move forward. And so when I go into working with a team, people are polite sometimes, too polite. I never like that when a team is too polite. It means there's stuff that is not being talked about, or it's talked about in the corridors, not with the right people. I don't like also when I go in, and when I say I don't like, it means for me that the team is not yet at the performing level. When I'm in a meeting and I don't know right away who's in charge of what department, who's the VP of what, because it means that they're really ingrained in their division and they've not let go of that hat for a moment, put on the CEO hat, and look at the company from a 360 perspective. It's okay for you to go back to being a marketer if you're the CMO, it's fine, of course. But just for a moment, suspend that ownership just for a moment and widen your ownership to the companies, to thinking as a CEO. But in order to do that, you need to have trust, know that I've got your back, know that I'll tell you if I disagree, know that if we disagree, but we decide on something, I'll move forward with it, and I will never say, oh, they decided this, but rather I'll say, we decided this. And so that's the work we do with a team.
Very interesting. How do people deal with some of these challenges? Well, we especially with the COVID, hybrid work has been a reality. I know a lot of business leaders that they're building the teams with the resources overseas.
Yes.
Or the teams changing it quite a bit in their own companies, right? There's a lot of turnovers or people working many different locations. Does that create challenge for business leaders to build this? What are we trying to we talking about, or is it still communication is communication?
I'll say it's probably both, meaning we've gained so much efficiency working remotely, because now we can have, it used to be, let's say we're in Canada, I'm going to fly to Toronto to have that meeting and then we're going to talk about it. And no, really, we don't actually need to meet face to face. A team meeting will do just fine. And so we've gained efficiency there. In building trust and in building that way of working, for sure, it's easier when we get to connect physically. Now, you don't have to do it every time, but probably you need it once in a while. Perhaps you do a one-day, one-team session, let's say, and that's the basis of that team contract and that alignment, and then you can do those sessions remotely. If you want to nourish and feed and make sure that you continue building that trust, you need to spend time remotely in your team meetings, focusing on your team. So it cannot be, and that's really important, it cannot be that all your meetings, even remotely, are just focused on business. You need to spend time on your team thinking and talking about, how are we doing? How are we doing on our team norms? How are we doing making sure that we have real conversations? How are we doing on alignment on our strategies. We need to think and talk about that even remotely. If you do not, and you just get caught up in the doing of it all, that's when you lose the trust. That's when you lose the connection. That's when you lose building the momentum of your team.
Very interesting. So let's talk about your journey, Chloe. How did you get into leadership and what inspired you to write those two books? Great books, by the way.
Thank you.
I was gonna ask you, are they published in English and French as well, or they only
They are.
French?
No, French and English. French and English, yes.
Okay, let's start with your journey.
So I'm a lawyer by training. And so I practiced law in a big law firm in Montreal in M&A, mergers and acquisition, for about a year, I'd say. And very quickly, I realized that I wanted to feel like I was having an impact on people. I could have felt that in M&A, probably. The lawyers that work in M&A feel that they're having an impact on people. For me, it wasn't the most efficient way to feel that impact. And so I moved into pharmaceutical, where I wasn't a lawyer, where I had a very commercial career for 15 years. I was in a big company, pharmaceutical company, where I had a blast. I learned a ton and I developed as a leader. And that's when I fell in love with coaching. When I became a leader myself and I realized that my success was actually helping others having success, it blew my mind. It made me realize how much power I actually had in helping, thousands and thousands of people. And that's when I trained as a coach. I'm an ICF coach, International Coaching Federation, currently working on the highest level. And so I started my business, O2 Coaching, 8 years ago, probably. And now we're 7, and we're working with enormous organization having an enormous impact. And so I couldn't be happier. I could not be happier.
Wow. So back to you're in a corporate world. You mentioned that you were helping a lot of people. Was that a lot of work you did intentionally, or was it unintentionally just you being a role model for them and that was being, helping a lot of people? Which one was more, you find simply just being a leader and just doing what you're supposed to be doing and that just setting a role model was a bigger impact, or other way around was much bigger?
Oh my God, that's a good question. That's a really good question, which actually goes back to our first C, connecting with yourself and understanding the impact that you're having. I don't know that I was a perfect leader. I actually know I wasn't a perfect leader. And so I think I did really great things as a leader and others that weren't as impactful. But by understanding and really owning on my leadership, I was able to improve those aspects where I wasn't as good, perhaps. And so I then understood the journey of a leader that needed to continue what they did well, but also improve on a couple of things. And I think that really serves me well as a coach today because it's a very normal process to wanting to improve on a couple of things while building and leveraging where your strengths are. That's the journey of all of us. We're not perfect in any way, shape, or form, and nor are we looking to be perfect either. But if you've got a growth mindset, which I talk about actually in my two books, if you're looking for progression, not perfection, then you're really focusing on having more and more and more of an impact. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no. What I learned for the last few years is as a leader, your action you take on a daily basis, how you carry yourself, those the way you work at a business, people see that those actions sometimes set up impact a lot more people than you would sit down and tell them that what needs to be done. And I think those leaders are those are the people who take action on a daily basis, whatever the goal they try to achieve. I think those are unintentional leadership. You simply, your action speaks louder, and I think those are the leaders. That's what I wanted to understand. Was it something you intentionally, or was it simply you doing what you should be doing, and just, your actions are speaking and making such an influence on people.
Make no mistake, whatever your intention is, your actions are speaking louder than anything else.
Yeah.
So might as well be intentional about it, I would say. Might as well understand what kind of impact you're having and think about, am I having the impact that I want to have? And this might vary from one person to the next. But if you take your organization, your team, or your organization and look at the impact that you're having, we have the chance to look at what we're doing that embraces or creates that climate. And I think that's so important. Even when we do a fantastic job, even when we hold ourselves to great expectations, there's always a way to look at the impact that you're having. And I think that's our first job as leaders. Think about what is the impact that you're having.
Yeah, what I find is, talk about team lead, the person, there's a lot of people working with them in a team. If I need to adjust something, the first thing I need to adjust is what the team lead is doing, right? The guy who's leading the team,
right.
Is he holding himself accountable? If I can adjust that and help him achieve what he needs to achieve, and I think everything kind of follows. And I think those team leaders are what I find in my industry are a key. You want to put the right people there, and then you want to coach them, and if you can make an adjustment there, I think everybody else, whoever comes, they just follow that leadership there.
Yes. To be a leader, you need to be happy working on becoming the best version of yourself.
Very interesting.
I'll say that again. In order to be a good leader, or just a leader, to be really honest, but a really good leader even more, you need to be happy working on yourself, becoming the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, that's what we do. We work on ourselves to be the best version of ourselves in order to influence, to impact. So I'm looking right now I'm watching on Netflix. I'll do a bit of a promo here. I'm watching Quarterbacks on Netflix, which is the story of 3 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm really not a big fan of NFL, but I'm a big fan of sports and performance. And how do we achieve that level of excellence? It's the same as leaders. It's the same. And these guys spend so much time working on themselves, their mindset, what they think about, what they don't think about, how they convey that, how they communicate that to their teams, that you see that when they're focused and when they have a positive look out on their game, it changes the whole game. That's the same for us as leaders. If we do not become the best version of ourselves and positively influence the people around us, then we're missing out on our role and the impact that we can have in the world.
Yeah, and you got to enjoy the process as well, right? You got to fall in love with the process, because it's not a one day you can do it over and over. Every day we do the same, right?
That's right.
Very interesting. So definitely, there's so much to learn from you. There's so much to draw from your wisdom, Cloé. So how do you work with the people? How can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can find me on our website, first of all, o2coaching.ca. They can send me an email, Cloé at O2Coaching. They can write to my assistant, info at O2Coaching. They can find us on podcasts, so all the platforms of podcasts. They can find us on Amazon, where they can buy the 2 books, Empower Your Team, Dare to Empower. If you just click Cloe Caron or O2 Coaching, you will find us, and just send us a note, and we'll be happy to support.
Yeah, I'm going to include a link below the video for all your, for the books and your website as well. People can easily connect with you. As a business leader, you're working on, business all the time, or trying to, lift your game up and be creative, but there's always blind spot, and I think that's where we need a coaches like you, simply show me, just help me discover some of those blind spots so I can get there much faster where I wouldn't get it myself there, right? So that's a help we need. It's a great to have a coaches like you, simply helping people out to achieve their goals, achieve their objectives, whatever they're trying to achieve in life. And I think it's a great help for somebody like you, somebody working. So I'll encourage everybody to get a copy of your books and reach out to you for conversation. Who knows where the conversation can take you. I learned so much from our discussion. There's so much to draw from your wisdom. So I'll encourage all business leaders who are watching, connect with you, have a conversation, see where the discussion goes.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this time. I really enjoyed myself.
No, thank you. Thanks for spending time with me. I learned a lot. So hopefully we'll talk in the future again. And thank you so much for time. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Take care.